here about 5 months ago chatting about previous year's results, and you'd already seen a turnaround coming through in the second half of last year. But the second half is traditionally a stronger half for you, isn't it?
Yeah, seasonally. I mean, obviously, if you taking out sort of economic disasters in the last 10 years or so. I mean, 7 of the last 10 years, our second half versus the first half picture is normally one of sort of 55%, 45%, and we expect that to be the case this year. And in fact, in the second half, we expect to show both sequential and comparative growth over the first half of this year. So basically, it's with some caution, it's a continuing story of the improvement that started at the end of last year.
And of course, last time you came in, you were also chatting about some of the cost-cutting measures you had put in place. You had tightened your belt a little bit, and we see with a 19% rise in revenue for you to grow your underlying earnings by 37%, it shows that those cost-cutting measures have been quite effective. Yeah,
those actions of 18 months ago, we got on the gas pretty early, and having been through similar situations before, I mean, that's clearly coming back now. We've still got some headroom in our business, so we think that the leverage could go on for some time. We're still not back at the margin, operating profit and EBITDA margin levels of where we were, early in 2008. So we've still got a ways to go.
You do mention the recovery in the US and parts of Europe, and of course we were chatting off air. You were saying US makes up 40% of your business at this stage. Are you confident with the recovery you're seeing in the US though, because we hear every day about potential double dips of more quantitative easing needed, and with consumers in the US really being under pressure still?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult backdrop to I guess navigate to long term. I mean, what we're seeing on the ground is that fundamentally businesses in the US are in pretty good shape. The majority, pretty much all of our business is to corporate mid-America markets and channels, and we're seeing a much firmer tone to the business compared to last year. Having said that, that doesn't necessarily correlate with what you hear about with the consumer or with government for that matter, but we think businesses are most probably going to have to be the catalyst to the recovery, not just in the US, but in other industrialised markets.
Of course, we know that US companies have also been through cost-cutting measures, and when they're cutting costs, IT systems are generally the first thing to go. Are they spending at the moment on your systems?
Yes, that's turned. That's that's a good observation. I mean, that was the case of the last 2 years, but we think we passed the inflection point in terms of total IT capex spend moving from falling to rising market most probably a year ago now. And in the Westcon, our largest unit, which is a distributor of communications and networking equipment, we've had 5 quarters now of successive sequential growth. In fact, we're in our 6th quarter of back-to-back growth.
And of course, the distribution is by far the biggest part of your business at this stage. You do talk about balance within the business, and geographically, also diversification within units. I mean, would you try and get some of the other, like just ICT solutions and services businesses to play a bigger role in the overall business?
It has, absolutely. I mean, we break that out in our segmental reporting. The gross profit that we derive, the contribution that is derived from ICT services and consulting used to be under 20%. In the reporting now, it's 43%. So we want to get almost half of our gross profit, or close to half of our gross profit, coming from non-distribution activities, and we're making good progress towards that through geographic diversification. You've seen a few small bolt-on deals in the last few weeks, and we are, taking our time with both tactical moves and fitting into the overall longer-term strategy.
Where would you like to grow geographically? Because you do talk a lot about Latin America. You say in the commentary that Brazil is the most promising emerging market at this point, growth-wise for you. How would you like to split geographically at this stage?
We're most probably underweight in Asia, and we've been improving our game plan there in the last year. We're very small in China, but we're going to have to move cautiously in that market. We're in India, we're mid-sized investment, and in Brazil is clearly the standout emerging market for us. We've been there for over a decade, and we really started increasing our business in all of our areas about 3 or 4 years ago, and we expect that to continue. There are other markets that we're just putting our foot in for the first time. Mexico, we've just decided to go into Mexico greenfields. We've got a small development office in Indonesia. We think that's going to be a big market people often don't talk about. So there are lots of places that we can go, but we're sort of incrementalist in our approach, and we're going to continue to expand our business outside of North America and Europe.
Well, you mentioned going greenfields into Mexico. How easy is it to enter a territory like that in a greenfields operation?
We typically need the support of large manufacturers such as Cisco, for example, and if there's a catalyst, if there's a confluence of needs from the technology manufacturers that we represent in our own business model, you know, we'll do something like that, and that's exactly what we've done in the case of Mexico.
You talked about the US and Europe stabilising quite nicely. How about the UK though, because that appears to be still under pressure?
Yeah, the UK, I mean, it's not going backwards, but it's not clear if it's going forward either at the moment. So we've got a pretty well optimised business in the UK, and our absolute performance is quite good. We're just being cautious about the outlook. We don't have much exposure to public services. That's clearly going to get hit. But and we're not quite sure what the halo effect will be of no doubt the austerity measures that are going to be introduced now with the upcoming spending review. But we don't think it's going to deteriorate. We just, as I say, we don't think there's going to be much progress in the UK, certainly until next year.
Well, you mentioned a few bolt-on acquisitions that you have been making. Of course, there was news out yesterday about Comstech, a South African company, where you've actually increased what you're going to pay for that company following the due diligence. What sort of approach are you taking to acquisitions at this stage?
We're not looking at any transactions that are company transforming or that significant in size that they would dramatically change our either geographic positioning or let's say business transformational. I mean, not that we wouldn't entertain such transactions, but there's nothing of that ilk at all at the moment. We think we're in a period now, it could be a year, 18 months, 2 years, where there are going to be opportunities to bolt on small and medium-sized opportunities, as we've seen before coming out of a lengthy recession. It's often those smaller companies that are challenged with credit. They might have good market access, they might have good skills and so on, and we're seeing opportunities out there now, and you know, we think that will be available to us for some time, and that's what you've seen in the last few weeks.
You chatted last time about targeting high growth tech segments such as connecting data, voice and video over IP networks. I mean, is this something that's still in focus for you?
Yes, absolutely. What they call quad play and triple play services. I mean, really the next generation of the internet now being fueled by content, social networking, you know, next generation wireless. I mean, on the technology front, there are lots of things that I think are still good and inspiring for the space that we're in. So, I mean, of course, they'd be even more inspiring if global growth was at a rate above what we're experiencing at the moment. But I think we're in a fairly okay sector in the space we operate in terms of coming through this now.
Jens, do you think the acquirer could become the acquiree? Of course, we've seen what's happened to Data and NTT. Is anybody perhaps going to make a play for Datatec?
Never say never, but I mean, we're not orbiting in this space with any suitors, any transactions. We're a company, we've been going for 25 years, we've been public for 15, and we run and operate all of our businesses as if we're, you know, long-term players and operators in the market.
And of course, following Data's delisting, you become the biggest IT listing on the JSE.
Yes.